Fire Merit Commission. Stand for the pledge, please. All right. Well, Stephanie has returned as the recording secretary for this meeting then. We'll begin with roll call.
Roger Florkowitz,
Present?
Tim Arvanitis.
Here.
Paul Petrie,
Here.
David Tarosi,
Here.
Tom Folk,
Here.
Attorney Christian Bartholomew,
Here.
Fire Chief Robert Patterson,
Here.
Deputy Fire Chief David Meyer,
Here.
Recording Secretary Stephanie Bodiger, here.
All right, moving on to approval of the minutes from the Merit Board meeting of March 18th, 2025. We have a copy of the minutes, and they have been assigned.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. Moving on, correspondence. Fire department, we're showing none. Is that still accurate?
That is accurate. No.
Okay.
No reports.
Old business. We had on the agenda full day, fire department update on the full-time hiring that we had discussed last month.
Yes, so the process is in process. The candidates have been set up for their physicals and their psychological, so they're going through that process right now.
And that was for the two that were on, two of the six.
The first and second
or
on the
five
list.
that were on the list, okay.
Yep.
All right. Are there any comments or questions? All right, we will move on to the issue of the formulating of the personnel policies. We were provided a bunch of information about 3:30 this afternoon from the attorney. I have gone through and read it, but
Speed reader.
it took a while. There's a lot there, and as we've been discussing, is we have to formulate those personnel policies. Much of the information that was in there and some of the samples that you had provided are based on the state statutes, and quote some of those verbatim. I guess from my questions related to that, for the fire department administration, if there are issues with that information outside of what the state statutes call for, as far as positions for chief, management, things like that, I've noticed that, like, I think it was Fort Wayne, had information there that didn't allow chiefs and administrative positions with less than 10 years experience unless it was voted by the town council. State statute says 5 years. I guess I would ask you guys to review that information so that we can get kind of your feelings and feedback on some of those things, because there's things as I read them, I thought, well, this needs to be struck out. This needs to be modified. My personal feeling regarding those is that we don't want to hamstring the procedures, as you guys have been doing this a lot longer than we've been a merit commission. There are standards and accepted practices within the town of Schererville of how to handle a lot of the personnel decisions, things that had been on the former police commission and things like that. So if I could ask you guys to review that, present that to the team in the fire department, and kind of report back to us next time regarding that, your feelings and thoughts on that. That'll, I think, give us a chance as a board to review those documents, and then we can move forward on that next time with a little more official nature of things, if that meets everyone's approval, and if that makes sense. Or any other comments out there?
Yeah, I haven't had time to review those documents, but I'll certainly have that squared away by the next meeting.
Yeah, so if I may, obviously we met the last time about 2 weeks ago, I think, which isn't a whole lot of time to wrap your head around all of these things. I'm quite impressed that you were able to get through all of that stuff. If anyone has any other policies, to bring to the table that they think might be relevant for our consideration, these were just things that I found by looking at other local communities. One of them, I believe, was Michigan City. Another one was Evansville. I don't recall if I did review the Fort Wayne one. I don't recall if that was one of them that I
Yeah,
circulated.
you didn't provide that. I had noticed that as we did a little bit of research and
okay.
things.
But as you've noted, as you go through many of these policies, you will see that many of them essentially take the statutory language and put them into a local ordinance or policy. And we might be able to take advantage of that as well. One of my thoughts was, and there were a few policies that I did not distribute with that packet, but South Bend, for example, is instituting a merit commission. And as of right now, the information that they've made available concerning their merit board is very, very simple. The council passed an ordinance that basically said we're authorizing the merit board and cross-references the statutory provisions without going back and rehashing them in detail for the ordinance. Similarly, and it doesn't pertain to the fire department merit board, but I noticed that City of Hammond has one for their police department. They also passed an ordinance enacting it and just basically cross-referencing the state statutes, saying that we will follow the procedures as set forth in the state statute, and theirs is very, very short. We're talking like a couple of sentences. Now that's on the ordinance side of things, and Attorney Austin's been out for the last week or so on vacation, I understand. I'm going to talk to him a little bit more about the extent to which we may want to have a ordinance that's actually passed by the council and codifying these things. The statute does not mandate that all of the rules and regulations for this commission be in an ordinance. We have to have them, but it seems like based on the statutory language, many of those can be kind of internal rules. So just another consideration as we look at these things. We do have some time frames to be mindful of as we formulate these, and in the statute in particular, which I distributed copies of that to everyone, much of the beginning of the statute pertains to actually putting together this board. We're kind of past that point now, so as you read through the statute, you may want to direct your attention to it's 36.8, 3.5, 10, and onward, and those seem to be the substantive provisions of that statute. I don't see anything in the current statute that allows a whole lot of flexibility on whether we want those rules to be ours or not. So I think we're probably stuck with what's provided in the statute, but there are a number of places in the statutory language where it calls for the commission to develop its own rules and procedures. And that's going to take a little bit of time, but the Section 10 of the statute provides that within 90 days after the commission is selected, and if we consider the date of your selection to be the date that the fire department chose the last two members, that was February 22nd. So 90 days out from that, you're looking at, I believe it would be May 22nd. And that's the deadline to have them formulated. However, that's going to require a public meeting of this body. That public meeting is going to have to be noticed at least 10 days ahead of holding the meeting. And the statute also provides that at least 10 days before the public hearing, the commission will distribute the proposed rules. So really what we're looking at is trying to have together a draft of rules that everybody's on board with by about May 12th or before. So we've got a little over a month to put these things together. Obviously, there's a lot there. There's a lot to consider. There's a lot to compare and contrast between the statute, other communities, and how our prior process and how we want to do that. My recommendation to the board would be that this is the sort of thing that it would probably be prudent to do one or more study sessions on.
Right.
That way we can all come together in a somewhat less formal session and just sit down and talk about these things and our thoughts and what the fire department's concerns are, what your individual concerns are, and take steps then to help to formulate a policy that we can distribute and vote on. Our next meeting is early next month, which is before we need to actually finalize and distribute these things. That's good. But as far as a study session, we could and in my opinion probably should schedule one or more of those at the meeting tonight at a time that works for everybody. And that'll give everybody time to read through everything, digest it, talk to chief and the fire department if you have individual questions and need feedback. And then we can all come together and really get down to the business of putting pen to paper. And hopefully at that meeting next month, then we could set a time for the final public hearing on this and, yeah, go from there.
Okay. Any other comments right now? I did,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree with the recommendation.
okay. Yeah, I did have a comment that, as you had mentioned, that, and why I brought it up with the administrative group for the fire department, is we have longstanding procedures, and we need to make sure that we find a little bit of that nod to the history and what has happened before.
Yeah.
If that's what the current firefighters are used to seeing, we don't want to rock expectation by saying, oh, well, we're going to do this a completely different way. And I think if we can formulate our statutes and procedures based on the state laws, but to that point that I had mentioned specifically with if there's certain things that are understood that you need to have more experience than the state mandated minimums, I want to make sure that we incorporate that locally so that's done. And even things like the full-time hiring process that you had forwarded over. Statutes from the state talk about establishing a point system that's required in order to score applicants for the appointments, promotions, demotions, things like that. And I think it's very important that we incorporate that. But if we can write our statutes to point to a document that can be alive and fluid, that is established by the management aspect of the fire department, without having to always bring the board back to always be talking about rules. You know, we can focus on the specifics as long as they have something that they can submit for approval or say, we've made this modification and have us adjust that. Because I know that none of the five of us are qualified at this time to sit down and type up, 10 to 500 pages of fire-specific, guidelines. The second point that I wanted to make was Mr. Torek had forwarded over the Gary rules and regulations. Paul had provided those. And in those guidelines, they really got deep. I mean, that's a department that's been around for, 100 years.
And that's a 30-year document, you know.
Right, right, it's, yeah, and when you see that, but the concern that I saw when flipping through it immediately, and then when discussing issues from the operations of the fire departments, I believe we need to focus on the state mandated issue, which comes out specifically from that 36835, which establishes that our policies are going to be based on merit for appointments, promotions, demotions, and dismissal. That's our edict. That's the definition of what we're coming up with. So we need to stay away from operational issues. We need to stay away from physically staffing issues, budgetary issues, things of which we have no authority or control over. So that's why I believe that staying with a minimal document, something that's simple and easy, it's much easier to add to things and make sure that we're not violating anything off the get-go that establishes something where we're causing friction for existing systems. We don't want to be a detriment to that and cause any problems.
Yeah, and if I could make another observation on the Gary policy, for example, as stated, that is a document that came together over probably a 30-year time period, and what you will probably also see as you review some of the other communities' sets of rules that have been distributed, and you guys might find even more in your independent searches, but they all state pursuant to what statute they were passed and the date that they were passed. Many, if not most, of the available materials for these merit commissions right now were policies that were formulated under older versions of the statute. And communities were granted the ability to stick with their old system if they already had one in place and grandfather things in. And you're probably going to see a lot of that reflected in these drafts. So I think, what you've said is an important observation that ours are not going to look exactly like these. And we do have systems in place that we've been using. And maybe the question that we would want to address is, all right, what do we have that works? And what small or minor changes can we make to that to ensure that the present system is compliant with the new statutes, in addition to any new input you guys may have on those
In
rules.
discussions I've had in the last couple of weeks was exactly focusing on that. There are town-specific issues that only the town council can address. That's why I get a little bit concerned when I see even the part in our scope of the policies talking about dismissal. Well, dismissal is a much more legalistic term. It's easier to hire someone, definitely, than it is to fire them. Mm-hmm. It's easier to promote one than to demote one. So I know that we don't have given authority, unless the town council has provided that to us, to even implement those dismissal decisions. That's got to be done at that level of the body. And, there's clearly policies regarding that. EAP things, progressive discipline. And that's why I kind of want to see what we've been doing and how we've been doing that. And, not to put all the pressure back on the department themselves, but that administration group, clearly you know what you've done and you know how it's been done. And even though it has not been formalized at this time, I think that it's a much easier starting place if we have that buy-in and can look at that history a little bit. And then we can have some discussions with the town council as well, because again, I get the point system, I get the hiring, the promotion, demotions, but dismissals related are going to affect everyone in the town. It's got to be the same rules, whether they're driving a fire truck, driving an ambulance, driving a police car, or a snowplow. Those
fires
same
right now?
standards have to be followed.
If a police officer was going to be dismissed, who fires him?
I believe,
Police commission or the town council?
it is,
But-
the recommendation comes from the Board of Safety.
Well, why would that be any different for us then?
It's just that, again, that's when we get to it, The town council is the one who has full authority of the final decisions. You know, we are a recommending body, if I'm not speaking out of turn, but we don't have the final authority for any of those items.
I think under the new statute, this board is given some of that authority. But, you know, that's one of the things we're going to have to sit down and really dig into is, you know, how much of that are we handling? What is left remaining to the discretion of the Board of Safety? And then what, if anything, is left to the town council? And all of those are, you know, very, shall we say, intricate decisions. And that's why I think it would be, you know, really useful for us to sit down in one of those study sessions and
I agree.
go over this stuff piece by piece.
Mr. President, can we establish those study session dates right now?
Have available times?
I don't know if you guys still have the list. I printed one off. This was the one that we used last month of the proposed meeting dates for other boards, commissions, et cetera. I can pass this down if anybody wants to consider it.
Now, members of the board, availability-wise, are you available at later hours, earlier hours? What would be the typical availability in your schedules during the week?
Later for me.
Yeah, probably,
Okay,
Typically, anytime after 5 is good for me.
okay.
yeah.
All right, so I think that should be the target. How long would we expect a study session? How much do we want to block out?
Do we have to have this whole thing together by May 12th?
That's the idea.
So it's one long one or two shorts, and
Right.
we barely have a month as it is.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, we start short, we take one that's put together, and we quote most of the state law, because the state statutes cover 90% of what I saw in both of the ones, the
Yeah,
samples that I reviewed.
I agree, and despite the bulk of these documents, I think that once we start digging in, that's what we're gonna find, is that the state law actually covers a lot of the ground, but we may need to supplement with some things. So maybe it would be a good idea to set the first study session for a long one, and then if we're gonna do a second study session, one would hope that perhaps that could be a bit
And
shorter.
those by law would be required to be in the open
They are,
meeting room again? We're gonna,
they are open meetings, and the public is allowed to attend. I'm going to explore with town council whether we need to do that in here or whether we can do that maybe in a less formal setting. But they are meetings that would need to be noticed to the public, and, you know, everything we do is public.
right.
So,
I just wasn't sure whether we needed to set it up with the streaming equipment and everything, if that was required, so we'll have to investigate that. I'm assuming it's going to be the issue, so.
yeah, the actual statute for the streaming does not take effect until later this year. However, you know, I would defer to the town and the council on, you know, how they want the boards to,
Has the town council adopted a provision to formally begin the streaming? Has that been, you know, by statute, or are we doing it as a ad hoc basis at this time until the state statute kicks in?
The latter,
Okay.
Ad hoc.
July 1st, it has to be done, but
So the town council has not passed anything specifically saying that starting earlier this year, we are going to provide that. But yeah, we don't want to step on anybody's toes, so, you know, I guess at this point, if we can review the schedule, let's pick a date, and maybe after the meeting, when we can all compare schedules and look at our availability as to those times. And I think the idea of having one longer session, an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then following up with maybe a 1 hour session secondarily to that, once we've got a rough draft to work with and things. Again, some of the things that
Can we piggyback on our May session, to have the short one on our May session?
following that, that may be the easiest, because that's really the time within that week is when we would have to have that completed. And we are scheduled to be in May 8th.
So May 8th is, that's possible. I would say that, you know, that makes it a pretty tight timeframe. If we have to distribute the policies.
Well, we were saying that would be the second one, so
Second
we'd have to have
Second
the
one,
one, the longer one before that time.
Yeah,
So
so
at least we've got that close.
hopefully we would be able to get things hashed out as well as possible prior to that. And then the policies, by my calculations, would have to be distributed and open for public review by about May 12th. So I would just hope that, you know, we don't blow up any issues that require further consideration at the May 8th
And again, I think
meeting
if we
do it
focus
that
on
way.
that, you know, because, I mean, it gets into details, just, you know, since you guys haven't reviewed it, there are issues with, you know, changes of, you know, replacement of high-level administration positions within the fire department. It addresses specifically already in state statutes that who can provide the removal, who can provide, but they can't be fired from the fire department, they can just be reduced in rank. So there's a lot of things that the drama has already been removed because it just can't be done any other way.
No, yeah.
So,
I know as far as the fire chief, the fire chief serves under the discretion of the town council.
well, everyone fires, or serves at the discretion, but it specifically says that, you know, to remove the management, a main position, it is not a removable, it specifically says it's not removal from the department, it's removal of rank. So
Maybe
hopefully you
the,
guys don't have anything to worry about with that.
So do we want to try to get a study session third week of April for the long study session, and then finish it off on?
Yeah, that would be
If we find one of the days in that week?
let's see.
And then if someone could, Roger, the documents that we should be looking over specifically?
That, as he had quoted, the information that he provided today in that email.
Okay, I didn't see that one.
The state statute, the 36-8-3.5,
Okay,
that is the framework that establishes the commission, and then as you go through the detail in that, it references, and then when you look at the other two documents that were provided, they were pretty well done, because as they mentioned, something in state statute, it actually quotes the statute, so that as that changes and modifies, they don't have to go back and correct. And that's kind of what I was going for, is that I don't want to be involved in the correction procedure every time something changes at the state level. So if we're putting things in that are, you know, more restrictive or more, you know, more focused locally, we can do that, but we certainly can't run afoul of the state guidelines. So anything that we do, if we can start with that stripped-down version, and again, I'm not sure who the person is that, you know, has that ability to put that together. You know, maybe we ask Mr. Bartholomew to formulate that rough version that meets the minimum requirements of what the state statute is, so we can distribute that and have everybody working off that same page. And then we can get some feedback from the 5 members, and then also from the fire department personnel as the things that are brought to their attention, you know, consulting with the firefighters, and then going through with the management aspect of it. Is there a specific date? My schedule's more open than I think the others, so. if there's-
Monday and Wednesdays are good for me.
can you pick
14th?
no Wednesday for me.
Monday and Wednesdays are actually bad for me, unfortunately, at least that week. Tuesday would be open, Thursday would be open, Friday would be open. Nobody wants to do this on Friday, though, I'm sure.
Thursday? Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday?
How about, can we do Thursday, April 17th? Is that possible?
Works for me.
Is everybody good?
It's my wife's birthday.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I mean, She's understanding.
What's 15th look like?
How understand?
Which day?
15th, what's it look like?
15th?
I'm
We
only
also
good
have to
for-
keep in
Tuesday.
consideration,
And
if it's a
Tuesday we
recorded
can-
session, that we got to make sure that our recording personnel are all able to attend this too.
Yeah, the room is available, but we need to make sure personnel are available to run the equipment.
How about April 15th? That's a Tuesday. We good with that?
Works by me.
Yeah.
Time?
5?
You want to go 6? Can we do 6?
Clock, does
Yeah.
that work?
Yeah.
Do that? That doesn't run afoul of any of the other dates on that list?
Yeah, there's nothing on that showing
No.
on the calendar for that.
So April 15th.
15th
at
is a
6
Tuesday,
At
6
6 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Tax day. All right.
Get your taxes done before then, so you're not cramming that evening, right?
I have one comment, if you don't mind. When we're looking at all these different policies that other cities and towns have already, we have to be mindful that a lot of these have been in place for a long time, like you're saying, and they may not fit into the statute that this merit system falls under. So we could draw from them, but we have to make sure they fit the statute, so it's really important that we pay attention to statute, look it over and know what we're doing.
Right.
Gone through
AJ,
these
are
merit
you
things
available on the
before. It's not-
15th?
It can get pretty intense, so.
Yeah, and that's what, the rule that establishes Schererville-specific statute not being grandfathered in, because there are different versions starting in the
Right.
70s and 80s.
can't do
And
it.
then the 90 updates, so the one that establishes as 2025 is pretty bare bones, and it's pretty straightforward, and that's why I think that, you know, in order to, especially to meet that deadline of the 90 days, we can always have that first draft put together, approve it, and get it done, and then revisit it in 2 months if there's things that we find that aren't working out, or if there's things that are identified that, you know, we don't want to create any, you know, tiger traps or trip points for the existing administration and operation of the department. You know, we want to move this together. And then, okay, so we've got those 2 dates set. And we'll verify that we've got, so it'd be the first study session would be April 15th at 6 PM. And that would be 90 minutes or 2 hours? 90 minutes, 2 hours? Put it down for 2 hours. We'll put it down for a 2-hour session. And then the second study session will be May 8th at 6 PM, follow Board of Safety meeting at that point.
If needed?
Yeah, if needed.
So I guess the question there would be, if May 8th is when our scheduled meeting is normally at 6 PM, if we're going to do the study session, do we want to hold that before? I would imagine it would have to be before the meeting, because we may want to take action on some of the things that were formulated in the study session afterwards. So that could make our meeting run a bit later, but we'd have a hard stop to the study session, because the timing for the public meeting does have to be announced, so.
Okay.
Would that be in conflict with the public, or with the safety meeting beforehand?
Shouldn't be. They start at,
The Board of
5.
Safety starts at 5 o'clock with the study session, and then at 5:30 starts the meeting on the 8th, and it is scheduled on the 8th according to this.
Yeah, can we confirm that? Because usually the Board of Safety is the first Thursday of the month, and May 1st is the first Thursday. So we're going to have to double check to confirm that they did push that meeting back without our knowledge. It's always the first Thursday of the month.
Yeah,
So we're
this
gonna
is a
have to confirm.
revised schedule that they submitted to us with the open dates, and this is.
We'll
what
figure it out.
showing. Ours should be the first. The 8th is what the Board of Safety is set for. Except this is one that you provided to us.
When's our next meeting?
All right, well, that's where, that would be the
I
date.
think it would probably be good to set the date, because at the study session, no decisions are made. So you can't vote on anything or take any official action. So, you know, if we don't set the date now, then we'll have to separately notice it up by motion of the chair or something like that.
I'll check it.
So it's probably good to line up as much as we can right now.
Maybe we should investigate doing the first then, since that would be the date that was set.
Is the first
And-
what we've got on the calendar for the next,
No, it's showing on the 8th. That's why the
It is-
question came up, is that that's actually the second Thursday of the month, so, you know, from what we had agreed to last time, we were gonna follow the Board of Safety, which was the
That's an error.
first Thursday, but it's actually the second Thursday.
Yeah, I think they're gonna go double, I think Jim's double checking, I think.
Okay.
I've got Board of Safety listed on my calendar right now for May 1st.
Yeah, and the schedule that you had done that showed revised, that you provided, has it down as May 8th.
It's May
so-
8th, doesn't it? Yeah.
What if you did the week after for the second meetings? Like
We're
the
checking to make
22nd?
sure if it's the 1st or the 8th. We'll get right back to you.
Get it over with. Do the second meeting about a week after the first one, and that way we're way ahead of our regular meeting passage. If we run into a snag, then we can always add some.
So then we go to the 22nd, is what you're saying. You
If
propose
it's
that second?
Good with everyone else.
And does the 22nd work for
So go
schedules?
15th
Yep.
and 22nd?
So what we do?
22nd is fine for the second study session, we're saying, right?
Yes.
All right.
April 22nd?
And that way, the May 8th meeting, we've got that, we can vote on anything that we need to do, get final public comments, and then that gives you, a few days to get things posted and submitted to the,
It is the 8th? All right, they just found out that the meeting is scheduled for the 8th, the Board of Safety.
And that will be
didn't
ours
realize,
as
did
well.
okay, then we'll plan on doing our meeting that 8th, immediately following the Board of Safety, and then we'll do our second study session for April 22nd from 6 PM to 7 PM,
Sounds good.
with the first session being the 15th from 6 to 8 PM.
All right, and AJ, are you available on the 22nd? Yeah, the 15th and the 22nd, he's trying to put two. All right, so we got to make sure and confirm for the 22nd, because we got to make sure he's here to record the sessions. Get somebody else to, okay.
Okay.
So we're
Okay.
good? Okay.
All right.
Should
What
probably
were
have
you
a
saying the
motion
time
to-
for the 22nd, same thing, 6?
6 PM, yeah. We should
Make a
probably have.
motion
yep.
for our study sessions, the first one to be April the 15th at 6 PM, and the second study session for April 22nd at 6 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, passed.
All right.
Okay. Next line item regarding budget. And I've already touched on this a little bit. After investigating the budget for our board is included under the fire department's budget. So we are, our salaries and all the associated expenses that we incur, which are none, other than our salaries, are being picked up by the Schererville Fire Department per approval of the town council already. So since we basically have no budget authority and have not been given budget authority by the town council, I think that we just need to establish that our budget officially is as adjusted, yeah, $0 based on, and underneath the fire department line item as approved by the Schererville Town Council. Other than that, we don't have any budget for equipment or paper clips, so.
Yeah, the salaries are paid out of our budget, so there is no budget for the merit board. Our budget is ours, and then we just use line items to pay your salaries and that.
So, that resolves the budget issue.
My only question would be, what would happen if you had a issue where you had to, you had disciplinary hearings, things like that, you had to have attorneys and things, would that still fall underneath your budget?
Right.
Yes?
Yeah, the budget's set for the amount of pay and everything for your guys' sessions and that. So it shows the salary, and it also shows what you're paid per meeting, and what your total amount that we're able to pay you guys at the end.
Are you regarding like legal fees and things like that?
Yeah, or if we have to hire, if we all decide to hire an outside firm to do promotions or something like that. So I guess you'd have to have an increase in your
Well, again,
budget.
Mr. Bartholomew's, his contract is actually under the fire department's budget as well as a
Yes.
separate line item, so.
Yep.
Right now, it is, insofar as, like, the fire department has been using a third-party, operating under a third-party contract for assisting with the hiring process. And I think that has already been, the expenses for that have already been wrapped into your current budget, right?
Right, it's been paid for.
Okay, so I'm not sure that there's anything additional to consider now. When it comes time for next year, maybe that's an issue we explore if we want to
Request with the town
continue.
council to have a separate
Yeah.
budget assignment for the merit commission itself.
Because many of those items are, like whether we continue using that third-party service, for example, at least according to my current understanding of the statute, that would be a decision up to you guys.
Right.
And if it's your decision, it would make sense to have independent budgetary items, but if provisions have already been made for this year, I don't know that we need to reinvent the wheel.
Right, the cost for the companies that we use for the hiring process are taken out of our budget. So, and that's how it'll probably stay.
Any other
All right,
comments?
very good.
Any comments from the floor regarding budgeting? Any information you can provide regarding how the Board of Safety is budgeted? Is that also a zero budget proposition?
Yeah, there's no budget.
Yeah, same way you guys are. Comes out of the fire department
And police
budget
department
as well as
budgets
police department budget, so. And they get a certain amount per year, not to exceed this number, and when you hit that number, you don't get any more checks.
Okay, great.
And it's stated in the line items for that budget, too.
Right. And I did note too regarding the issue of any dismissals or lawsuits originating from that, the statute is also clear on specifically what is allowed from the person dismissed, what the timing is of when they have to ask for appeals, and then where they appeal, which actually is at the county court. And it's very, very laid out, and those fees would have to be approved by the governing body, which would be the town council. So again, there's not a lot of latitude that they've left us with some of these things, so.
That's fine.
Okay, so we have determined that we have no budget, so we have no further need of that budget line item. Does anyone want to make a motion that we have identified and closed out the budget item?
I'll motion.
Second.
I don't understand the reason for the motion.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure that we had captured that we've officially identified that there's no question that we are under the fire department's budget, and we
Yeah,
have no budget, because the statute does define that we need to address the budget.
It does, and I think that would be the purpose of the motion, just to clarify that in lieu of submitting a separate budget to the council, we're proceeding under the process as it has been and as it exists with all of the rest of the
under the
town
fire department.
bodies, yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Second?
I'll second the motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the question of the recording secretary. Chief, are you able to make any progress, hear anything about the posting on the recording secretary? Is there any update you can provide on that?
Yeah, so we have posted for the recording secretary along with the secretary for our fire department. We are in the process of waiting for the deadline, and then we'll see what we have on that applications. The ultimate goal would be to utilize our new clerical coordinator that we would like to hire in our office and utilize her as her or him as the recording for the merit board.
Okay, and that's been an internal posting right now? that's
It's a
listed?
turtle, and then we also post it on a website.
Okay. Any questions regarding recording secretary? Okay, moving on then. New business, fire department, is there any issues that need to be addressed at this time?
No new business.
And we'd already discussed no new business, no new reports.
No, sir.
Okay. Board members, any comments, any additional questions?
No, sir.
Nope.
Any business from the floor? George, nothing to say? You did a great job. Yeah, I appreciate that. All right. With that, that finishes the new business.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Perfect.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.